talked, and I said, that's what I want to do. But what happened is when I quit the law school dream and went into it, I ended up deciding that my role is to help people get out of the issue of drugs and alcohol, and it was to beat their cases. And I'll be very candid, a phenomenal track record of winning.
Yeah.
Then I had a guy named Oscar, 37 years of age with a third-time DUI in North Court in Fullerton. I interviewed him, went through his case. I walked up that court and said to myself, I lose that case, I should be disbarred. I didn't lose the case. I lost him. He was found 2 days later after being found not guilty. He was found dead on the street, and his blood alcohol at his postmortem was over 6.0.
Oh, Jesus.
It was ruled as suicide.
Wow. Boring.
I can be.
The only reason I
After
have
8
him
o'clock,
here,
I do nothing.
No.
The only reason I have him here is because if I stop talking, if
Yeah.
I'm like out of stuff to say,
Yeah.
then he just starts rambling on.
I'm like a cheap filler. I'm like that. You know that the pink filler in bread that Subway uses
Yeah.
that no one wants.
Right.
Yeah,
that
that's
no one
him.
But
wants.
it's there anyways because it's
Yeah.
cheaper to have someone that
like he
that's-
showed up on my doorstep like
Yeah.
7 years ago, and
Yeah.
and I'm like,
I haven't
dude,
left.
I was like, he just sat
I'm
in my
unemployed,
office
bro.
for
I'm
like
unemployed.
2 years.
I have nowhere to go.
Sat there.
I have
Finally, I
nowhere
was
to
like,
go.
can you guys please like give him an office down the hallway?
Yeah. Then I stopped coming to work.
I can't do my work.
It sounds crazy. It sounds too fun.
So this is how we do it, right? I know you've done other podcasts for sure, that I know. This is our intro. Ready? Michelangelo, are we live? Okay, we're live.
On.
Great.
That's it.
Great.
Lloyd.
Lloyd Freeberg.
First, I have to say that you're 81 years old and you look incredible.
Yeah.
I need to let everyone out there know that because I want to look like this guy at 81.
I appreciate that. The problem is my IQ is only 62, so I'm sort of going with this.
Well, it's improving because it was 12 a few weeks ago, or it was 12 an hour ago. So nice.
I wish we could. Never mind. I almost said something political. I'm not going to. This
Say
is
it.
not a political.
Say it.
No, I'm not going.
No,
to.
you're gonna fight it.
Yes, I'm going
All
to
right,
fight
that's
it.
fine. Fight it.
It's much better to just let. This podcast is about
Bipartisan.
addiction.
Yes.
This is a bipartisan podcast
Yeah.
because the reason why we created this podcast is because my son-in-law died from fentanyl poisoning on September 11th.
Just out of curiosity, how old was he?
26 years old.
The fentanyl has been taking a lot of very young people.
Right.
15, 16, 18.
Yeah.
Wow, it's out of control.
And we're pissed off. So,
Yeah.
So I'm using my anger as a platform to create awareness,
Yeah.
to bring people together and help fight not just fentanyl, the disease in general, and let people know that it's okay to go to treatment.
Right.
It's okay to get help. It's okay to work on yourself. And then on top of that, we called it the Hopeaholics because, we want to offer people hope that they too can have an amazing life.
Yeah. I do have to tell you, I love that name.
Thank you.
That was brilliant, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to take credit for it, but somebody else and I don't even want to say who, because she doesn't even want me to talk about her on the podcast.
Yeah.
But my ex-wife,
Right.
she put Hopeaholics on a sweatshirt one time that we gave to all of our clients.
Right.
And I was like, what am I going to call this podcast? What am I going to call this podcast? One day I just, bam, it was like Hopeaholics.
Yeah.
And then I went and searched, is the URL available? Are there any other podcast name? There was nothing.
Crazy.
So that's when I knew, because I had come up with a lot of other names. Like my current wife came up with a dictionary. I thought that was really cute and
that's
clever.
cute. Yeah,
That was my first choice, but it was taken
Yeah.
already. So I didn't want to try to do something that somebody else has done. So that's basically why we do the podcast, and then we bring amazing guests like yourself on to talk about what you do and how you help fight this disease and get people's lives turned back around. So tell us a little bit about that and what you do.
Yeah, I'm going to start by saying I appreciate the comments about the work that I'm doing to help people, but you're going to see two people today are going to chat with you a little bit about they're the ones that have to carry the spears. They're the ones that have to do the hard work. But I'll go back a little bit. Came from playing professional sports in Minnesota, was in graduate school, and they brought a lawyer in, and that lawyer talked, and I said, that's what I want to do. But what happened is when I quit the law school dream and went into it, I ended up deciding that my role is to help people get out of the issue of drugs and alcohol, and it was to beat their cases. And I had, I'll be very candid, a phenomenal track record of winning.
Yeah.
Then I had a guy named Oscar, 37 years of age with a third-time DUI in North Court in Fullerton. I interviewed him, went through his case. I walked up that court and said to myself, I lose that case, I should be disbarred. I didn't lose the case. I lost him. He was found 2 days later after being found not guilty. He was found dead on the street, and his blood alcohol at his postmortem was over 6.0.
Oh,
It was
Jesus.
ruled as suicide.
Wow.
But it was hurting to me. It was upsetting. I couldn't believe it. I beat a difficult case. What was wrong with the guy? And then I had a client come very quickly, 19 years of age. Could have been known as Bill W., one of the co-founders of AA. I knew nothing about AA at the time. But Bill Wartenberg was found passed out on the street in Brea. He had a blood alcohol over 2.0, and his case was sort of goofy, and I took the case, and I brought an obscure motion. I won the case. It was fabulous. Called me a month later crying on the phone. I said, what is it, Bill? Hey, Mr. Freeberg, I have another DUI. All I could think about, I'll be candid, is how much money I'm going to charge him to defend him on this case. But he went on, he said, it's a lot worse. And I said, how so? He said, they tell me I hit a 6-year-old girl on a tricycle and killed her. And he ended up going to prison, but I ended up going into a real evaluation of what am I doing? To win a person's case and not do anything else to get him out of the system is doing nothing. It's actually giving him a freedom to keep doing it because you get the right lawyer and he'll walk you and you'll be home.
Right.
So I didn't know how to do it, so I decided the first thing I wanted to do was find out why people get into this situation. And the idea came about. There were 3 people in custody. I'm going to go down and talk to them, and here's what I'm going to say to them. You know, Joe, for me to do as good a job as I can for you, I need to know your whole life story from your earliest recollection, ups, downs, successes, failures, strengths, weaknesses. How I learned that, you have to write for me what I call a journey letter, because everybody's story is complex and important. It must be 100 pages, single space, both sides. Oh, and it has to be done with a pencil. When you're locked up, that's all you can use. Everybody in my 300 journey letters to date must use a pencil, because the pencil becomes biofeedback. And when you read these letters, of which I brought a couple of copies, very early on, you're going to read a sense of abandonment by someone important in their lives, and it sits there like a dagger. And one day they look up, and there's the answer: fentanyl, heroin, whatever. And so I write the letters. I'm going to add a little comment just because it clicks in my mind. 71% of my females with a continuing drug and alcohol problem indicate in their journey letters they've been sexually molested by a person in a position of trust, a stepfather, a coach, a teacher. You get so disappointed in what you read, but you realize there's an opportunity to try to get some help. And I am going to introduce you to these 2 people who do the bulk of the help. Because when they write the journey letter, it not only educates me about what went on with them, but it becomes a platform for therapy to help them uncover the issue in their lives that's driving it. And again, it's always a deep issue way down in their lives. When they start working with a therapist, though, they understand that in most cases it was imposed on them. It's not something that they did. They're not born that way. They have no way to change. It's part of their dynamic. They realize it's something that can be accomplished. And the journey letters, my next step is to publish a book about those, because I have, as I say, over 300 of them. The stories are beyond powerful, and you'll see some of these in here. Here's a kid at 18, got sent to prison. He does 4 years. He gets out, picks up 4 more cases, comes in, and for the first time he decides he's going to look at why he's in there. But the most important part of it, he writes a journal letter, goes to a therapist. And the therapist helps him understand why he's made those decisions. The important thing about this is that helped me stay with this work. It can be dealt with successfully. People can be successful. And interestingly enough, they move to a different level. most of them want to help other people struggling with the same issue, and they're better at it than someone else. I've never been down that road. In professional sports, if you use alcohol or drugs, at the time I played, you were a dead man.
Yeah.
So that's where this journey has taken me, to look into why do these people do this? Not just get them off, because that doesn't solve anything. And that's where the journey letter then goes to people like these two here, Neil Summer and Dr. Groover, because these are people who work specifically to help people understand what's the origin of this problem, and it can be dealt with. And I'll be very candid. We have a huge number of people who've been successful at changing their lives, and typically what happens, they get a job where they help other people do the same thing.
Right.
So I've got 300 journey letters, going to be a book. They're pretty emotional to read. I'll tell you, I've got some right here that just...
I mean, that's a big book. That's if there are 100 pages and you have 300 of them. Do the math, Shane.
3,000.
Yeah. You need a truck to buy the book, and that's...
Yeah.
No, but it's interesting. You'll abbreviate them down to something, but when it's 100 pages, they run out of time to not say the right stuff, to BS. They run out of time. The next thing you know, it comes out. And it's
Right.
always a sense of abandonment. I brought one along, and it's interesting. Just the first paragraph, I think it's in here somewhere. The first paragraph told me everything I need to know about this person. My name is Matthew. I was born August 26, 1987, Anaheim, California. My mother left my biological father in her 6 months of pregnancy. I have never met him. That theme goes throughout this. Why is my father not in my life? What did he see in me that I don't have?
Right.
And the interesting thing is, once they write them and they go to someone like these two psychologists, they realize there's a way out. And most of them not only get out of the system, but they stay in it as counselors to help other people do the same thing.
That's amazing. I mean, that's really that's a game changer.
It's been for so many people. Crosses the board, male, female, young, old. But what you realize is there's often this error when they're kids. And I was bringing a letter to show you, and I started reading a story, and they're just so emotional.
Yeah.
Father just beat on him emotionally, physically, and then was surprised why he ended up with this issue in his life.
Right.
The good news is he's over that issue, and he's now helping other people.
We've actually found on this podcast, what's coming out, because we've had a lot of men on our podcast that are in recovery and are successful in recovery, and we have found that 9 out of 10 of them were molested as well.
It was pretty high. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's
and
striking.
we're brand new in our podcast. I mean, we've done 30 episodes, but our first 9 it was all men in recovery, and the common theme was they were molested as a child. And some of them I was just not horrified, but just blown back. And I was so grateful that they were able to come out on this podcast and to the world and and admit that this is happening, because that's one of the things that is so hard for men to admit, that something like that has happened to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that will keep them sick. That will keep them. You can get periods of clean time, but unless you deal with that, you're not gonna stay sober continually.
It's interesting you say that, because I've had a lot of clients do that. They get clean and sober and say, I'm done, I've solved it, this is great. 3 months later, they call me and they've got another DUI.
Another
you
case.
have to tell them it's not solved. It's solvable. But I'll tell you what happens for me. It's the journey that goes to a therapist, and the therapist has very specific discussions with the person about steps they can make to end this issue.
Right.
And the percentage is extremely high. There was a time when I first started, here was sentencing. What did you do? It'll be 22 years. What'd you do? It'll be 18. There were no programs, no whining about, he had a bad life, et cetera, et cetera. What you did was a driving factor. Yeah. And then, as I've said, we had this district attorney in Dade County, Florida, and his public defender looked at each other and said, we're not helping anybody. We're sending people to prison for marijuana.
Yeah.
And with that first drug court, it's grown throughout the United States. Yeah. Every court has a drug court, and it's drug court, DUI court. It's a whole fathom of courts that we bring onto the picture to deal with a whole bunch of problems, and they all end up in the court.
Yeah.
And they're confident. Most of them write their journey letter, and they're extremely honest about it.
Right.
And just as a comment, these two people here, I just happen to have reports that they made. This is Dr. Gruber's, where they interview in detail. This is Neil Summers. And they help these people learn the issue in their lives, and they work with them, and they understand they're not bad people, that we're not made that way, they're not terrible people. They actually gain a strength when they deal with it because, and we use that example to them. I tell them, I've got a friend who, he wakes up one day and he's out of shape and he's overweight. He hasn't done any workout, and he says, I'm going to get one of those Pelotons. I have a Peloton. It's a workout. You adjust the thing and it's hard to pedal it. And so he gets a Peloton. He's all excited. And he plugs it in and he cranks it down and he pedals for about 2 minutes and says, what the hell did I do? This is killing me. And that's when he makes a decision. I'm staying with this thing. And 9 months later, he's like this physically, but more importantly, emotionally, he understands I can beat anything that comes my way.
Right. We're really big on that. We're really big on fitness. Shane and I, and we talk about that a lot on our podcast. We're also really big on, on positive motivational videos and speakers and and what you fill your mind with as well. I've had my struggles. For me, it took a lot of different pieces, right? But I'm one of those guys that was molested as a kid, and I never dealt with it. And I thought I had, and I'd worked a 12-step program, and I'd worked all 12 steps. But like you can't really get in depth with the trauma that I had and the confusion that it brought to my brain to in the 12-step program.
Right.
Unfortunately. And because of that, and I never dealt with it, I relapsed. And and when I relapsed, all hell breaks loose.
Right.
I'm not that, I'm not that guy that just goes out and has a drink or a beer. It's like, methamphetamines are going straight into my vein and I become psychotic. Yeah. And you see me that way, you would definitely diagnose me as paranoid schizophrenic.
Right. Interesting.
And that's what happens.
I have clients go through that same process, and you need to constantly tell them when you come out the other side, it's tough work. But when you come out the other side, you're like Schwarzenegger. You're totally buffed out physically and emotionally,
and mentally.
Yeah,
it's a whole different mindset. Like I don't even know who that guy was anymore. I really, really don't.
Good. Yeah, yeah. Well, you're in the right job. I mean, you're doing something to help other people. That's been a great thing about the AA program and sobriety in general is people who are successful that they want to tell others, you can do this, man. It's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
Yeah.
That's what we want to tell people on this podcast, man. And it's like, and I also want to be a voice for the people that have lost their lives and the families that have lost their loved ones, because sometimes it's hard for them to speak about it, right? My daughter has been on our podcast. She lost this was the love of her life. This was the only love she's ever had. She's 22 years old. They'd been together for 5 years,
Wow.
And that's a long time when you're 22 years old.
Sure.
Like for me and you,
Minutes.
5 years, I was like,
what was that? Thanks.
But when you're 22, that's forever. And and she's having a hard time. She's out doing this stuff too. She jumps on the podcast. She loves the whole message. Anytime we go out and talk to homeless, and we go out and we do outreach out there as well, and we grab Michelangelo over here and we grab the camera and we go talk to him. Because we want to create change at the highest level. It's not fair that I can go to treatment because I have an Anthem PPO policy and I can get in anywhere at any time, within 4 hours, but somebody who's homeless on the street, there's no resources.
Right.
There's no real resources for them, not like what I can get. And you know that when people are in crisis, there's a window, especially, addicts. I don't mean normal people in crisis, but addicts in crisis. There's a window of time, and sometimes it's 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
And if you don't catch them within that 4 to 6 hours, they're back out on a run in their misery, creating possibly more damage to society and possibly more damage to their own history. And then they've got to end up, in your office.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you honestly, hearing that story, I feel emotionally about it because this is the dilemma I go through. They go through it as well. Of, have you said the right thing? Have you given them the right tool? Have you thought of enough words that will click? Because many times they're sort of not buying it, and you'll say something that clicks with them, and next thing you know, they're buying into it. So it's a big challenge to do, but when they don't buy into it, it's pretty upsetting. And reading those journey letters was really tough for me.
So how does it work out? So they write the journey letter, you read it, you've met with them, obviously, and then from there, where does it go? Does it go to one of these guys?
Yep. They have to do a program of AA to start with, but most importantly, it goes to the therapist, and they read the letter. And typically, within a short period of time, it's in that letter.
Right.
And they're particularly good at this. Now, I've used a bunch, but I'll tell you candidly, these two sitting over there have probably changed the lives of thousands of people over the past year time.
Right.
And so it's having them accept the fact that they can change it. And that for the lawyer that's my biggest problem is,
Right.
Can I say the right thing that will allow them to say, all right, I'm going to go see one of those guys. I'm going to write that letter and see if I can work on this.
Yeah.
Because when they do, the success rate is extremely high. When they don't, the failure is just brutal. They just
Right.
get worse and worse and worse, and their
Right.
lives
And
disappear.
then they become that the recidivism of the California Corrections Department.
Yeah, you were going to say, and I was waiting for it, the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, which it does virtually neither.
Right.
If you do it, you're strong enough to accept things and strong enough to do it, but you're not going to be particularly
Oh,
successful in there
no.
unless you have right. Now, I have a young man who has picked up a bunch of cases, and he's still in custody, and we're working on his journey letter and that sort of thing. And now they filed a new case, and he's got 2 co-defendants. When I look them up, they're both longtime bad boys. He's over at the county jail, and I think what happened is they sort of convinced him, hey, come with us and work with us, and he's just put himself in a huge hole.
Yeah.
But it's having the strength to look at it and say, I can live that life. I can be successful. I can work on this.
Right. Well, let's hear from one of these guys. And who do you want to come up first?
Why don't we, because Neil has just showed me one of his letters, why don't we have Neil come up, and then Jim can come up afterwards. Do you want me to trade seats with him?
Trade seats
Yep.
with them, yeah.
Don't forget your head thing. Don't walk away with it.
And I got to get this thing. There you go, friend.
Thank you, Lloyd. Might leave a watermark over there. Nope. It's an old man's back.
I'm with you, brother.
Ooh,
I'm with you.
yeah. Oh, I need headphones. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. There we go. A little closer. All right. How's that? Does that work out a little bit better?
Yeah, we can hear you perfect.
Okay, good.
So, Chad was just asking.
I don't hear you.
You don't hear me?
Yeah, your mic's off.
My mic's off?
Yeah. Oh, you disconnected it again. Come on,
Nice.
Shane.
I'm back. So Chad was talking about the journal.
Yeah.
You write the addict writes it.
Yeah.
And then it comes to you.
Yes. Well, typically what happens is Lloyd gets a call. Somebody has broken the law. Lloyd has a lot of has had repeat business over the years. And what happens is he'll have the defendant call myself or Dr. Groover for a meeting. and Lloyd will give the instructions about writing the journey letter. And when they come in, it's a fourth step, basically.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah, and it always starts off a little tangential, kind of informative, non-emotional. But with the biofeedback and with the pencil and with the mandate for 100 pages, people begin to get real pretty quickly.
well, that's what I'm saying. How do you fill up 100 pages? Boredom sets in. They have no choice but to get real by the end of it. So smart.
Yeah, exactly. And then
A lot of repetition in there.
and Dr. Groover and I write reports to the court for several reasons. One is there are now mental health diversion laws on the books. There are military health diversion laws on the books. But these reports always serve to mitigate consequences. In other words, the district attorney and the judge will read. This one's 20 pages long, but in the middle it's called the psychosocial section, which is about the person's life. The judge and the DA will never read anything about the defendant's life unless it's evidence. So this becomes evidence. They have to read it because it's going to be entered into the record. It goes into the record. The DA reads it because he wants to know what he's up against in case something goes to a trial, and the judge will read it usually because it's really interesting, and they get to take the court number, 22 HM 27654. You look at you go to court. Here's a judge. They don't look up. They don't see human beings. They see case numbers.
Right.
And somebody said it earlier that the emphasis is on. I'm getting a little dry mouth. The emphasis is on what the event was. What Dr. Groover and I do is we say the event is insignificant.
Yeah.
The motivation,
Right.
the history, the intention behind the event is where the information is.
Yeah.
And so the district attorney, they want to minimize that. Now, look what he did, or look what she did. It's her third DUI, And then I had a client whose son was killed, he burned alive in a car crash, couldn't get out of the car. His father was aware of the circumstances of that. So obviously a horrific trauma, and he went out and drank.
Yeah.
And picked up a DUI. And this is his second within 10 years. That's an enhancement. That's a felony. That's mandatory 90 days in jail, according to California law. And there's no wobbler there. And so I wrote up the report and went into some detail about what he experienced emotionally. and he was allowed out of jail.
Wow.
He did house arrest, and he's been sober for 2.5 years, I think, 3 years.
Oh, nice.
And we did grief therapy.
And he
bereavement.
wrote that.
No, this was a different guy.
Different guy. No, but he wrote something similar.
He wrote a journey letter. This was not one of Lloyd's clients. It was another attorney that has followed. There are a lot of attorneys in Orange County.
Yeah, following Lloyd's footsteps.
I had a guy, Chris Hernandez, called me yesterday and said, Neil, I've got a journey letter. I'd like you to read it. I've got this guy going. It's next Wednesday, but he's looking at 2 years for violating a joint suspended sentence. You have time to do it.
Hey, Lloyd, did you trademark that thing?
Yeah, exactly. So it's sitting in my computer now. I've got to go. I'm going to read it, but I know for a fact, just with what the attorney told me, that we can help him. We can help this guy, or else he goes to prison and learns how to be bad.
Yeah, right.
My experience working with Lloyd, what is it, 33 years, 35 years, I believe, since the early 90s, is that the clientele we're talking about are people that have been judged their whole life, judged, never understood. Nobody has taken the time. You're a kid with ADD, ADHD.
Yeah.
You're in 5th grade. You get the IEP, and they say, this kid's out of control. We need to put him on Ritalin.
Right.
And then the Ritalin turns into
Methamphetamine.
Yeah. Or cocaine if you have a job with Goldman Sachs or something.
Right. That happens too.
Yeah, exactly. So what we see because part of our evaluation is doing a medication trail, and we find a lot of meth addicts that got their start
In elementary school.
in elementary school because the teacher was having trouble managing the
Right.
herd
Yeah.
with this person acting out.
Or the parents wanted them to improve.
Exactly.
That's what I'm going through. I have a few friends that put the kids on Ritalin.
Yes.
And the kid's incredible. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's like night and day from one year to the next. Like playing the instruments and school. I mean, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. But what happens is
Yeah.
we live in a world where people want to put everybody in a category.
Yeah.
You're, the first bifurcation is you're pro-social or you're antisocial, even at 5 years old.
Right.
If you're spreading finger paints on your classmate's forehead, you might be having a problem here. Let's call the parents and get this
Right.
kid evaluated for medication. Because,
Nothing wrong with a little body painting, is there,
yeah, well, you know,
Chad?
I don't know, man. I was doing it.
So was I, baby. So was I. Shit.
exactly.
Shit.
His point's made.
Yeah.
Point right off the bat, we got judgments going,
Yeah.
and they're always based on what inconveniences somebody else.
Yeah.
If you think about it,
Yeah.
think of parenting. Which kid is ignored the most? It's the good kid,
Right.
because you take a nap because
Yeah.
you can trust
Yeah.
that instead of putting the cat in the microwave, he's doing his homework,
Right.
right? And so,
I have one of those.
yeah, a microwave or a
No,
cat?
both,
A cat in a,
probably.
a cat,
Yeah.
cat in a microwave. but what happens then is the kid that's, you know, attention deprived begins to learn that the way you get attention is by being a fuck up,
Right.
right? And then you gravitate in school toward other fuck ups,
Yeah.
right? And part of fucking up is using and getting loaded,
Yeah.
and, you know, and living in the short term at the expense of the long term. And then you get in legal trouble. And then, like Lloyd said, 85, 90 attorneys out of 100, they want to get your signature on a plea agreement
Right.
as quick as they can do it,
Yeah.
because then they're relieved
Right.
and they get to walk away with the retainer. And they will tell you, this is the best you're going to do. But I've watched Lloyd over the years, and he'll continue a case and continue it and continue it, and eventually show up 8 months later and say, here's 160 AA cards,
Right.
meetings.
Yeah.
He's got a sponsor. He's been drug tested. He's ETG tested. You know, we've got his wife. Not that I would recommend this, because it's then you go into domestic violence. But you know, she's got a breath analyzer at home, and he's not drinking. He's been clean and sober. Maybe he's wearing a drug patch. Maybe he's been wearing a scram unit. If you guys know what that
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But here's proof that in 8 months, Your Honor, this person is motivated and dedicated to getting sober. Those other guys, when the attorneys go in, they say, Your Honor, I know this guy. I know this accident occurred a week ago, but I'm pretty sure he's good. You know, they want, you know, and again, I don't mean to pick on attorneys, but this is stuff I've seen
Yeah.
right here. This is the best you can do.
Yeah.
But I didn't do it. But it's going to cost you 25 to 50 grand to take it to trial. So
Yeah.
let's get this over with. And then that person might have to go do some jail time. What better place to go to be relentlessly judged than prison
Yeah.
or even jail? Because everybody judges you. You all dress the same. In Orange County, it's an orange jumpsuit. If you're a sex offender, it's blue. But it's categorization. What we try to do is make an individual with what we do out of the person sitting there in the courtroom. And Lloyd's the ambassador,
Right.
because he's got unless we are asked to come back into chambers, you know, we're not part of that legal system. And so fundamentally, my job, Dr. Groover's job, is to take court case number 22HM 23067 and put a human being there instead
Right.
that they have to look at. And then the recommendation is always for treatment.
Right.
But then we have to pay close attention to what sort of treatment's going to work.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you flat out, I've owned, I've developed, I've run at least 15 programs. I've been doing this since 1980.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to say, you don't look that old. So why did she?
You don't look.
You don't look, bro. I thought you were 45, 50, 40, 45
Oh,
years.
no, man. I'm 71. I'm catching up.
Damn.
We're having a race.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
What
Who's
is
doing
going on
who's
here
doing
with
your
these
Botox?
guys?
It's a
Huh?
formaldehyde is legal. If you
Botox? Yeah.
yeah.
You go to a med spa?
No, I just have dirty thoughts all the time. I think that's what does.
You're 71?
71.
I swear to God, I was thinking 40, 45, 50 at the latest.
Are you single? No, I'm kidding.
Well,
He can be.
you know what I mean? My wife is she's
certain-
leaving town for a couple days, and we can do a fucking test run, and you know what I mean? I'm not going to jump in with both feet right away. Working on 15 years here and 3 kids, bro. You know? But
You like pina coladas and
you know what? No, I do actually. I do.
I shouldn't bring
I
that
do.
up.
You know, we were outside. We were talking about Medicare, Medi-Cal,
Yeah.
and difficulties. Then we hit on veterans,
Yes.
and then veterans have a lot of outlets, new outlets that you have.
Yes.
That you share a little bit of that.
Yeah. 2 years ago, brand new law went into effect in California. It's Penal Code 1001.80 for anybody that wants to look it up. And it is an opportunity for active or veteran military with a misdemeanor offense to get an evaluation by a licensed therapist that shows a connection or a nexus between military service and your crime.
Yeah.
So, for example, I had a Marine walking out of a bar. 2 guys gave him some grief, and he humiliated them physically and ended up with an assault and battery. Serious stuff. And he went, and the attorneys at the time, they called me and they said, do you think he's eligible for the military diversion? Absolutely. It turned out, you know, he had been in Afghanistan. His best friend was cut in half by an RPG, and he was there when that happened. So it didn't take much to put the PTSD and the trauma connection to his rage.
Yeah.
He was given the diversion. I think I saw him in therapy for 6 sessions, and then he did maybe 10 of anger management. He was fine.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was.
So this isn't just taken away; it's actually expunged.
Yes.
So there's no record at all.
Yeah.
So it's even if you get a DUI, it's not like you can
Correct.
you can stay out of jail.
Yes.
But not only that, it's not even on your record at
Oh,
all.
wow.
That DUI is completely gone.
Yeah, and people don't know about.
Only for the military.
Yeah, but this gets confused with the military court.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there is a military court that's been in place
Yeah.
for quite a while. There's
Yeah.
a mental health court that's
Yeah.
been in place.
Yeah.
There's,
We know all about those.
you know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they are shit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
and I know I'm going to get in trouble, but these laws allow a specific treatment.
Not by us. You won't get in trouble by us.
Yeah.
Well, okay. These I have seen firsthand the effectiveness of I'm not real fond of California laws. I'm really not. You guys were talking politics earlier, but these are good
Yeah.
because these are people that have.
No, we didn't talk politics. I stopped it.
Yeah.
I zipped my mouth real quick.
Well, I think it's fair to assume there are a few laws on the California books that are, you know, could
There's some good ones.
Oh, yeah.
Not everything in California
No.
is bad.
No, but this one is good.
Not everything
Yeah.
is blue. Oh, sorry. I meant, yeah.
I've done dozens of these evaluations. Had a guy on an aircraft carrier that was out at sea. You know, he's on the flight deck, and then he's getting bullied
Yeah.
and getting beaten at night by people that don't like the way he looks. And then he gets into drinking and using, and he comes home. But it didn't take a whole lot for me to show the connection between him being isolated on a boat and targeted, you know, in a bully situation. And then he got treatment. I wasn't the therapist on the case, but I referred him to another therapist. I think he did 6 months of counseling in a group setting, and he was great.
Yeah.
And his entire, I think his was a DUI, and he actually had hit a car, which makes things worse. He
Right.
didn't hurt
Yeah, it does.
anybody, but his entire arrest
Whoopsie.
because he went to jail for a few days. His arrest and his blood alcohol was, I think, a 0.15 or 1. It was almost double. And I think he might have had some benzos in his system, which is really bad because then that really cranks it up. So in a normal legal setting, a judge is going to go, and a DA is going to go, we got to get this, we
Got to put him behind bars.
get him in jail for
Yeah, you
that
gotta put him
120
behind.
days, and then ignition interlock, and then strap him up by his ankles to a tree for a little bit, let people spit on him or do something.
Yeah.
But when you think this guy's on an aircraft carrier, where those Top Gun guys are coming in and out, your startle response is going all day long, even with these things on out there.
Yeah.
And the guy was badly traumatized. He needed help for that specific trauma. I got his mother in to see if he was a cuckoo bird prior to, because and he wasn't. Normal guy, good guy. He had a good position. He wanted to make the military his career until he was targeted by other people. And then he eventually went on and opened up his own business. He didn't really need a treatment program for drugs and alcohol. That was just his kind of anesthetic in the moment.
So basically, at the end of the day, you guys write a treatment plan inside of that.
Yes.
And with does it give a detail? It gives a detail
Yes.
of what they should do, recommendation to the courts,
Yes.
and hopefully the judge and the DA will accept that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So that's kind of the, and the only reason why I'm jumping over there is because we got to kind of wrap this up. And,
Okay.
And what I was thinking though is, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until I'm gonna make Jordan come over here and talk with me. I'm gonna kick you off.
Okay, yeah, let's go.
You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kidding me?
Come on. You're gonna co-host with me for a few minutes.
Just throw 'em in there.
Yeah, I'm throwing you right in there.
Hi.
Hello.
Oh. I've never done one of these before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Takes a minute
Yeah.
to get used to it.
So go like this close to the microphone.
Hello?
Yeah,
Hello.
now I hear you.
Ooh.
Yeah, you can hear yourself too. It's weird, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I like that.
What I like about it is I'm like, okay, this is what I really sound like. So then when I hear it, I'm like, oh, I've already heard it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because you know how when you talk, or like you listen to your own voicemail, and you're like, whoa, I sound like that? I was like, why do I sound like such a girl? That's what I usually say. I'm like, I don't sound very manly.
Or like Tiny Tim, if you remember Tiny Tim.
Yeah.
Anyway, real quick, just on the tail end of that question, you'll see a lot of treatment plans that'll say, recommend group therapy, recommend individual counseling, recommend 90 meetings in 90 days, recommend it's generic fluff. What we do is we say this person has severe depression and we might want to consider, transcranial magnetic resonance therapy.
Yeah.
Because because the SSRIs aren't going to work,
Right.
or not just anger management, but we really have to target the rage response that developed because of the conditions he was in when he was in Afghanistan or when he was in Iran. So you won't see a lot of that because and I'll be honest with you, a lot of therapists are afraid to get specific. There's a lot of getting sued fear out there, but it doesn't help until you say, no, this individual, they need EMDR.
Right.
They need the eye movement therapy to deal with the trauma, or the exposure therapy. So we get very specific, and it's very helpful in terms of the DA and the judge going, oh, this is different. These people took some time and got to know this person.
Right.
And they've literally put a plan together that it's hard for them to say no.
Yeah.
Because if this gets referred back to whatever they do in jail, good luck.
Yeah.
Because what you'll get then is you'll be a member of 15 people in a group, and you're all going to watch Father Martin's Chalk Talk for the third. I don't mean to be facetious. No, I do mean to be facetious. I've run a lot of programs, and what the state asks for is the type of thing I'm talking about, which is generic,
Right.
I had an analyst come to a program and say, what is this TMS? What is EMD? What,
Yeah,
don't
they
you
don't
guys
even-
just do individual counseling and groups?
Right.
Yeah, but we're trying to target the trauma the abandonment issues, attachment issues. These are all researched, specific,
Therapies for it.
ideological reasons people develop addictions.
Yeah.
And what you get is they need social skills training.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm sorry.
Well, let's let your partner come
Yeah.
on, and then we'll
Very good.
and we'll wrap it up.
Good. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good.
I'm
Are you a lawyer? I walked in a little late.
No, I'm
So-
I was trying to figure that out.
So here's how things are.
Yeah.
That gentleman over there is a lawyer.
Okay,
He's
that makes sense.
Lloyd Freeberg, who developed this program where they have people write a journey letter, and it's a 100-page journey letter about their life, and then they help. They don't just get them off their case; they help them get better.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah. So instead of just doing winning their case and putting them back out on the streets, to just go continue to get loaded
Mm-hmm.
and commit more,
Yeah.
crimes,
Well,
and cases, and
basically, it is my contention that the legal system is the last real intervention
yeah,
because people don't want to go to jail.
right.
They don't want to lose their jobs. There was a time when I thought, maybe drugs, maybe some should be legal. And I'm thinking, no, you know what? We need,
No, there's got to be.
and because of him, and I do mean this, in Orange County, the legal system has swung significantly toward rehabilitation
Yeah,
because his clients don't come back.
right,
They don't recycle.
right.
Some do,
But
but
not
if,
many.
if you were to take 10 other attorneys
Yeah,
and you could track 10 or 15 of their clients, he doesn't have repeat business.
right.
And he, by the way, he's the busiest guy in Orange County in terms of referral. No,
How much did you pay him for that, Lloyd? Huh?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
All right, let's bring
Yeah.
your partner on.
Thank you.
You're
Want
not
me to
going.
stay?
You're not going anywhere.
Damn it.
Stay put.
I'm not gonna just let you sit in this room and be bored.
I wasn't bored.
You're gonna be my co-host.
First time too.
First time on a microphone. First
Yeah.
time on a podcast. We'll make it not easy for you.
Well,
How
at
about
least
that?
I'll be all warmed up by the
Yeah.
time it's my turn.
Yeah,
Yeah, this will be my first time too.
on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, just turn. Yeah, turn them backwards. Yeah, it's better.
See,
It's
I
easier.
told you it's my first time.
Yeah. And then just put the microphone like 4 fingers away. And then anytime.
How's
if you-
that?
That's good. Anytime you move, if you want to talk to her or talk to me, then you just
Okay.
move a little bit. I just go like this. Hello, how are you?
Yeah, that works.
Right? So what do you do?
Well, I'm a licensed psychologist, and I do, very similar things to Neil. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I'm going to have much new to say, but I do most of the evaluations. Lloyd brought a sample of my work, and so I start out by interviewing the client, interviewing the family if that's appropriate, reading the journey letter that Lloyd and Neil talked about, and I use testing modalities too for things like their readiness for sobriety and drug and alcohol treatment, and if I deem it appropriate, for their mental health possible diagnoses. And so what I look at is, first of all, for most diversion programs, there has to be an underlying psychological or psychiatric diagnosis that they're using drugs or alcohol to deal with, or actually not deal with,
Right.
to cover up. And so I make recommendations, for drug and alcohol treatment, and if appropriate, the treatment for the mental health issues that underlie the drug and alcohol use. And then I come up with a treatment protocol that the judge could mandate, or, the program that they go into, can use.
Right.
And, I do psychosocial history like Neil was mentioning.
Yep.
To show the abandonment issues or the trauma issues and how those influence both the mental health and drug and alcohol usage.
Nice. So I don't have any more questions on it because we pretty much ran through the whole gamut of what you guys do. Like, I completely understand it.
Yeah, well, I think Lloyd and Neil, pretty much covered all the bases.
Yeah.
So,
well, that was good. And we pretty much have run out of time. We're way over time, but that's okay.
Okay.
But thank you guys for coming in.
Yeah, well,
Very
thank
much
you for having
appreciated.
us. It was really enjoyable.
Yeah, thanks.
I walked into a bunch of suits. I was like,
That's
oh.
scary.